Today, I'll be talking about a horror and psychological thriller movie, Mother's Day. But be cautious, spoilers lie ahead. The movie begins as an unknown woman posing as a nurse enters a hospital's maternity ward, ignoring a security guard's ID check. She snatches a baby, but is confronted by the guard, attempting to talk to her. An unseen man suddenly appears and stabs the guard in the neck. In the next scene, we go back to the past, when Beth Sohapi, a young woman, is throwing a birthday party for her husband, Daniel Sohapi, with the assistance of their married friends. Meanwhile, three brothers are fleeing from the law due to a failed bank robbery. The youngest brother, Johnny, is injured from a gunshot, causing panic among them. They decide to go back home, hoping their mother can help them. Back at the house, additional friends have joined to celebrate Daniel's birthday in the basement. As news reports predict a tornado, Daniel tells them that the basement is tornado-proof. Meanwhile, the three brothers arrive at their mother's house, only to discover that she no longer lives there. This causes Adley, the middle brother, to panic. Elsewhere, Daniel assumes his friend Charlie has entered and goes upstairs to welcome him. Instead, he's ambushed by the brothers. They realize that Beth and Daniel now own the house, as their mother lost it due to foreclosure. Just as they're about to escape the house, Beth emerges from the basement. Confused by the situation, she runs outside but is pulled back in by Ike, the oldest brother. Beth then reveals that one of their friends, George, is a doctor who can help Johnny. Ike forces her to bring George upstairs. Without alerting her friends, Beth seeks George's assistance, who is then compelled to help Johnny. Ike receives a call from his sister Lydia, who reveals they are living in an RV and heading to the house. Just after Ike ends the call, Julie, one of Daniel's friends, appears from the basement. Adley chases her back down and restrains her. As Julie attempts to escape through the basement doors, Adley stops her, causing her to lose consciousness. Ike then leads Beth and Daniel downstairs and instructs Adley to remain calm. While Ike helps George, Adley remains downstairs, harassing Dave and his fiancée Annette. Eventually, Lydia parks the RV, and the brothers' mother, Natalie, arrives, expressing anger at Ike for misplacing their emergency phone. She reveals plans to have someone guide them across the Canadian border, requiring payment of $10,000, which they lack. She also discovers that her sons have been sending her money each month since she lost the house. Next, Natalie is brought to the basement where she encounters the hostages. At first, she's kind to them, expressing gratitude to George for helping her son and apologizing for her children's actions. She clarifies that it's a misunderstanding and she plans to leave soon. Natalie politely requests her money from Beth and Daniel, but upon their denial of any knowledge, she assumes they're hiding it. In an attempt to pressurize them, she orders Adley and Ike to torture Daniel. Later, Natalie robs the hostages and takes their ATM pins in writing. She instructs Beth to accompany Ike in withdrawing funds from their debit cards. Suddenly, Melissa escapes upstairs with Adley in pursuit. As she reaches the door, George confronts Adley, but gets struck with the gun. Terrified, Melissa rushes to the front door, but she's shot in the face. After putting Melissa in the trunk, Beth and Ike leave with the car as Natalie and Adley clean up, while Lydia steals the hostages' gas. Natalie scolds Adley for hurting Annette, and he breaks down. George then wakes up, learning his life depends on Johnny's health. But George also warns him not to harm the hostages, or Johnny will suffer. Meanwhile, Ike and Beth stop at a dumpster to get rid of Melissa's body. Back at the house, George notices Lydia's weird behavior and conflicts with Adley. While in the basement, the hostages divide into two groups. One wants to resist, while the other prefers cooperation. Lydia emerges and brings Annette upstairs, making her serve ice cream. Annette soon realizes George is alive and that Natalie is safeguarding her children. In the next scene, Beth and Ike stop at an ATM, and Beth starts withdrawing money. Two party girls, Vicky and Jenna, pull up behind them and mock Beth for taking time. As Ike tries to redirect the girls to another ATM, Beth warns them to leave by telling them about Ike's gun. Before they can react, Ike realizes the situation and takes them hostage. Ike then hands them a knife, proposing that only one of them lives. Vicky briefly grabs the knife, but drops it when Jenna begs for her life. As Ike's about to eliminate them both, Jenna kills Vicky. Jenna then attempts to escape, but is shot by Ike. Back at the house, Annette tries to convince others that Natalie is only helping her sons, but Treshawn, another friend of Daniel, disagrees. Erstwhile, two sanitation workers pull over and discover Melissa alive behind the dumpster and inform the police. In the next scene, Lydia is attempting to clean blood from her shirt in the restroom when George enters. He discovers her pills on the floor and she explains they're for her sensitive skin. George tells her that the pills are actually sugar and realizes she was never seen by a doctor and was homeschooled. He reveals that her mother lied to her to make Lydia less noticeable to the boys, but they're interrupted by Natalie entering. She warns George to stay away from Lydia. Soon, a police officer named Skay pulls over. Natalie forces Daniel to send the officer away, threatening to hurt Beth. Daniel cooperates with the officer and sends him away. Natalie realizes Daniel is a good liar and tells Lydia to look for the money downstairs. Meanwhile, Ike informs Beth about their insufficient funds. Beth reveals that Treshawn owns a dry cleaner. Ike hands Beth the phone and she contacts Treshawn, requesting the safe's passcode. Treshawn shares the code and informs Beth about a gun in the cabinet. As Johnny's condition gets worse, he tells his mother he doesn't want to die a virgin. This man just can't leave this world without a bang. As George goes to clean himself up, he finds Lydia and asks about Queenie, a name he heard earlier. Queenie, as it turns out, is just a fabricated monster story her mother used to manipulate her. In the basement, Adley orders sending a woman upstairs to break his brother's virginity. Julie is chosen, but rejected. As Treshawn tries to go stop them, Natalie returns, bringing Julie back. Natalie picks Gina, Treshawn's wife, instead, but she saves herself by revealing that Dave could help them with money as he works at a bank and that she and Annette aren't friends of Treshawn's. Natalie forces Treshawn and Dave to fight with the condition that the loser's partner goes upstairs. With Adley putting on music, they battle. Treshawn soon wins, and Annette is taken by Adley. Back upstairs, Johnny almost dies while George tries to convince Lydia to change her mind, but she sticks with her family. Johnny recovers as Adley brings Annette, and Lydia tells her mother their plan is wrong, but Natalie believes they're being lied to about the money. At the dry cleaners, Beth messes with the safe code to stall and grab Treshawn's gun. When Ike opens the safe and takes money, Beth grabs the gun and points it at him. As Ike tries to grab her gun, she hits him with an iron and hides among clothes as the doors are locked. She tries to call the police, but Ike catches her. Back at the house, Natalie makes Annette change clothes. Looking through some photos and articles, it's clear to Natalie that Daniel and Beth had troubles since their son's accident. Annette pleads, but Natalie takes her to Johnny. George tries to protect Annette, but Lydia guides George away. Annette is then forced to remove clothes for Johnny. As they are about to begin, Johnny's wounds begin to ache, and Annette is forced back to the basement after George tells her to open a gold box. Downstairs, Treshawn unlocks basement doors, then retreats as Adley brings Annette down. Adley taunts by spanking Annette, which prompts Dave to attack. Gina opens the basement door and escapes, while Treshawn aids Dave, but Adley accidentally shoots Dave, killing him. Natalie spots Gina escaping. She threatens Daniel to bring Gina back. Daniel then chases Gina and asks her to come along, which she declines. They argue and she tries to escape, but Daniel catches her and knocks her out. Elsewhere, at the hospital, Melissa is quickly taken to the ER, but she's unable to explain what happened due to being drugged. On the other hand, Ike and Beth are near home when Officer Skay stops them on the way. Beth explains they're heading home. She shows insurance papers with her and Daniel's names. Skay senses Beth's situation and orders them to stop. Realizing Skay is onto them, Ike shoots the officer. He instructs Beth to drive and run over Skay, who's still alive. Beth flips the car at the last moment, escaping the situation. Meanwhile, Gina awakens in the basement. Natalie, Adley, and Lydia are present. Natalie explains to Gina that she will be punished through Treshawn. Tied up, Treshawn suffers as Adley pours boiling water onto his ears. Julie, Annette, and Daniel are also tied and are watching horrified. Held at gunpoint by Lydia, Gina only watches in shock. Back at the Storm, Skay recovers and assists Beth, who's hurt. She informs Skay that Ike is motionless. As Skay moves closer to aid Beth, Ike suddenly awakens and shoots Skay in the head. In the next scene, Natalie searches for leverage and finds Daniel's son's memories. She taunts him by burning a picture, demanding money. Daniel cries, denying having it. As she destroys more memories of Daniel's son, she turns to Julie. Adley sets fire to her hair with liquor, punishing her for having an affair with Daniel, and soon puts out the fire. As she goes upstairs, Natalie starts questioning the morality of torturing an innocent person. Doubting herself, she begins to search for the money. Elsewhere, Gina, who is also tied, activates a chimney and frees herself by burning away the plastic wrap on her hands. Then, she rushes to free her friends. In the hospital, Melissa awakens during surgery and alerts the doctor that Beth is in danger. The medical team contacts the police. Back at the house, Annette remembers a golden box George mentioned. Gina opens it to find knives. Meanwhile, Natalie finds money in a painting. She orders Adley to bring Daniel upstairs. As Adley heads to the basement, he is ambushed, and Daniel and Annette take turns stabbing him. Elsewhere, Treshawn, now half-blind and deaf, takes Adley's gun to confront Natalie. Gina tries to stop him, but he accidentally shoots her in the side. Natalie appears from behind and kills Treshawn. She then proceeds down to discover Adley dead in the basement. Then, Natalie calls Ike and allows Daniel to say his last words to Beth as she shoots him dead. Natalie also tells Ike about his brother as both Ike and Beth grieve. Soon after, Lydia again restrains Julie and Annette with plastic wrap. George confronts Natalie, saying her kids don't resemble her and that she might actually be infertile. Natalie gets angry and threatens George, but Lydia convinces her they need him. Soon, Ike and Beth enter, and Natalie tells Ike about the money. George and Lydia help Ike in moving Johnny into the RV. Natalie announces that it was Beth who hid the money, blaming her for her friends' deaths. Beth confesses she kept it for her baby. In the RV, Johnny shoots George to make his mother and brother happy, despite Lydia's begging to let him live. Natalie demands Beth's pregnancy test, which comes out positive. Beth then knocks out Natalie with a toilet lid and frees Annette and Julie. She informs Annette about a rifle in the garage. Ike leaves the RV, searching for Lydia. Annette finds the rifle, but it's empty. Beth heads to the garage while Julie runs to the front door. Julie sees Lydia, closes the door, and chases Beth. Julie then encounters Ike, who shoots her, blowing off half her face. In the garage, Beth and Annette search for bullets but hide when they hear Ike approaching. They counterattack Ike, but he seizes Beth. Annette nails him in the face with a nail gun. They try to flee, but Ike follows. Then they try to choke him, ending up dropping a shelf on his face. Hearing Natalie approach, Annette escapes to seek help, while Beth confronts Natalie. They then engage in a furious fight, but Natalie gains the upper hand. Natalie pours gasoline and ignites the house, but Beth awakens. Beth knocks out Natalie with a cutting board as the house burns. Beth exits and embraces Annette as firefighters arrive. They discover the injured survivor, Gina. Beth informs them about Natalie inside, but no one is found as the house burns down. Months later, Beth's water breaks, and Annette, Gina, and Melissa take her to the hospital. That night, emergency alarms wake Beth. She finds her son missing and screams in horror. In the final scene, Natalie is revealed to be alive and was the nurse at the beginning of the movie who stole the baby. Johnny was the one who killed the guard. Natalie sings a lullaby to Beth's baby and hints at raising it for a life of crime, getting revenge on Beth. Wow. This movie is a crazy roller coaster of emotion, suspense, thrill, horror, and mystery. From a mother's unyielding love for her kids to betrayed friendships and relationships, those cleverly crafted plot twists keep one engaged, ensuring the suspense lasts until the final moments. And that wraps it up for today. For more exciting thrillers, stay tuned to my channel and press the subscribe button.